Billy, let's dive into the budget here. $50 billion for Jared Polis.
Wait, I was told there's going to be no math. I'm not ready for this.
Especially on a Friday.
Yeah, it's
right?
not fair.
8 a.m., Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, on this Friday, November 14th, 2025. Good morning. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Jared Polis has put together quite a budget, $50 billion for you next year. We're going to dive into it with people smarter than us.
Oh, yeah. We need that help.
Savannah from Complete, Colorado is going to be joining us. She's one of their political reporters. Going to give us some insight into some of his priorities and where your tax dollars are going to be going in a wildly inefficient way to provide second-rate services. Welcome to the blue state of Colorado. We'll get to that and more. Now is time, though, for news and comment. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. TGIF 45 and mostly cloudy in Denver. Expecting a high of 71 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, Denver police shot and killed a man early this morning near the French Quarter Apartments on South Parker Road after a burglary was reported. DPD Chief Ron Thomas says officers found the suspect in a storage shed carrying what appeared to be a knife.
Found an object that I think officers reasonably believe to be a knife. It's like a stake or something like that. So has a handle on it, is a shiny metal object.
And when they ordered him to drop it, he advanced toward them. Not a good idea. Officers opened fire. He was later pronounced dead. No officers were injured.
There are so many far-left people who run the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., they just want to burn it down. They don't care if the troops don't get paid. They don't care if you cause billions of dollars of lost productivity. They don't care if you shut down the airline industry, which they were very close to doing. They just want to get Trump.
Federal workers are getting back to work with after the Schumer shutdown was ended. And, of course, that's VPJD. The White House has urged federal agencies to send paychecks as fast as possible to employees who have been without pay. Some are expected to get paychecks as soon as this weekend. Here's more from VPJD.
And they don't care if they have to burn the entire country down in order to get Trump. That's what they want to do. And I think that it shows how stupid that approach is politically, because normally you would expect the President of the United States to get blamed for a shutdown. The American people were smart enough to recognize that the Democrats were the ones who were sort of holding this hostage. They were saying that unless you give us everything that we want, unless you give us $1.5 trillion of benefits, health care for illegal aliens, we're going to destroy the country. We're going to keep the government shut down indefinitely. I think the president recognized eventually the American people are going to recognize this is the Democrats doing this. The Democrats, I think, made a huge political mistake.
Yes, they did. 56-year-old Matthew Impellitteri has been arrested and facing multiple counts of attempted first-degree murder for an alleged road rage shooting in Jefferson County on Tuesday. A black SUV crashed on 285 near Settlers Drive, and a woman was shot in the head before the crash. The woman was taken to the hospital and remains in critical condition. A British reporter had Tucker on his show and wanted him to rip Candace Owens this week, a couple nights ago, for her investigative reporting on the Charlie Kirk assassination. I thought this was an outstanding response.
It's not helpful, is it, that at that time of an incredible national upheaval, and obviously personal and familial family tragedy, to have someone like that picking apart the argument and suggesting that there are darker forces at play here that the US government have a hand in covering up. Can you see why people get upset by that and would like you perhaps to sort of distance yourself from that sort of thing?
Pretty funny. So am I going to attack Candace Owens because you think...
I'm not asking you to attack her.
I'm not going to do that, Harry. Probably not going to do that. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt as a foreigner of not understanding our politics, but the whole ritual of, this person said something I don't like. In order to be a good person, you must denounce this person. Obviously, I would die before I played along with that. I don't know anyone who's saying that who was the moral authority to compel me. I don't know anyone saying that it was any moral authority at all. And I would say broadly, not about Candace, whom I love, but about all people. Getting to the truth is the most important thing. I've devoted my life to it. I haven't always done a very good job at all, but it still remains to this day my animating motive. I want to know what the truth is. Again, I don't always get there. I usually don't get there, but I want to be the guy who cares what's true. A. B, if you're telling me that because the U.S. government or some law enforcement agency issues a statement that doesn't even make sense, that I'm required somehow morally to accept that and not ask any questions like, can you hear yourself? I mean, what are you saying?
Yes, exactly. I love that stuff. Avs and the Sabres last night tied at 3 in the second.
Straight ahead for Brindley. Gavin Brindley with a wrist shot. He scores! Gavin Brindley rips it inside the far post to give the Avs a 4-3 lead.
6-3, the final. The Avalanche win it. They are 12-1-5. Of course, the Broncos getting ready for the Chiefs on Sunday. A big practice today and then walk through tomorrow. And then their big football battle with the Chiefs coming up. 40 in North Glen, 43 in Lone Tree, 45 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Bill. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The unseasonably warm November weather rolls along right on into the weekend before we see some changes heading into next week. In the meantime, enjoy unseasonably warm November weather for a little longer. Low to mid-70s today, near 70 tomorrow. Increasing clouds, 60 Sunday. Overnight Sunday into Monday morning, a chance of showers and a cooling trend. We're going to see more in the way of unsettled, cooler weather next week with a couple of Pacific fronts arriving mid to late in the week. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
How old were you, Jeff, when MC Hammer hit?
Oh, man, I remember this.
How
This
old?
was like...
Yeah, because this is the big era for him.
Third grade?
Oh my
It
God.
was awesome.
Jeez.
It was so cool. And I specifically, like, it's in my mind, I remember Cool 105, the radio station, being like, Hammer is what you get at a hardware store. We play real music.
I remember my younger brother, and thank God he's not listening for this, saving his money to go out and buy this album. Yeah, he went out and got it on CD. I remember that, and been on a loop in his room over and over and over again. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, here's the crazy part. And okay, oh God. Yeah, let's do personal embarrassment time with Bill this morning. We got a few minutes here. Personal embarrassment time with Bill at 8:09 in the morning, Friday, 7:10 KNUS. Okay, you know those big, really weird, droopy pants that MC Hammer had?
Yes.
Okay.
Parachute pants.
Yeah. I had a pair of those before MC Hammer became a big thing.
Did you?
Yes. Here's the deal. It was probably about 8-9 months before Hammer appears on the scene in those parachute pants. There is a clothing store that is much off the beaten path. One of my favorites, and I loved it because they had the weird stuff. And I found a pair of pants in there that were like that. Big, giant pajama pants. One side, very, very thin, and they're black pants. Got to remember that, okay? One side of them, very thin white stripes. The other side, very tiny white polka dots. The fact that they were giant, ridiculous-looking pants that had stripes on one
Why
side,
do you ever
polka
get rid of
dots on
those?
the other. Once MC Hammer started wearing them, I'm like, damn it! And so I threw them away. I was like, I can't do this now.
Bill.
I bought them because they were so freaking
Legendary. That would've been
ridiculous,
great.
and they looked like pajamas. I was like, this is great. And people would look at me and go, those are some ridiculous pants. And I'm like, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. That's why I bought them. And then Hammer shows up and they become cool. And I'm like, this sucks. Because now when I go out and I would wear them, people are like, you're like MC Hammer. No, had them beforehand. So yeah, they went in the trash. I was disappointed. That hurt me.
You're one of those guys that feels like he has to defend himself. You should have just embraced it. You don't have to defend yourself.
No,
I had these before, MC. No.
Yeah, I'm not going to have that conversation. I'm like, because everyone sees it, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I did them because y'all would look at me and go, what the hell are you wearing? That was kind of, again, have you listened to the show for more than half an hour?
Were you an early adopter of goth, too, then?
Oh, hell yeah. I was goth before it was. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you always are before, huh? All right, let's talk advanced hair restoration. If you're losing your hair and desire to have it back, then Advanced Hair Restoration has the easiest guaranteed solution. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results. I've seen it with my own eyes. Guys, it's not magic, but close to it. They put hair where you need it the most, and bam, it grows. It's actually science. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated Dr. Tanya Paul's modern technology. And best of all, you get your own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day. Advanced Hair even guarantees it will grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now. That's 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver and has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. So don't wait. Check out the before and afters online for yourself. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. 720-459-HAIR. Advancedhair.com. All right, $50 billion, Billy.
Did we win? Is that the lottery check we get?
Not even close.
No, damn
we'll
it.
never get anywhere close to that. But could you imagine the taxpayers of Colorado handing you a $50 billion check? What would you do with it?
I'm going to Disneyland.
Yeah, and then you'd end up in jail. Or no, I think, those guys from DIA and their $19,000 flights or something.
Exactly.
They just got a little slap on the wrist. I think Mayor Mikey was like, don't do it again.
But you know what I love? I love the fact they're like, we didn't know. Hang on. Okay, just a moment here. A moment of clarity on the Jeff and Bill show, 8:13 on Friday. If you're a city or state employee and they come to you say, why are you taking a $19,000 flight? And your answer is, I didn't know. Get out. Get out now. That's part of your job is to know the process and how much that costs.
Doing that and still keeping your job?
No,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
if I had spent $2, and I wasn't supposed to at the vending machine, you'd lose your job.
Here's a radio story for you, and then we'll get to Savannah here in a second. Radio story for you. A friend of mine, dear friend of mine, who unfortunately passed away a number of years ago, ended up losing her radio job because she announced the wrong amount on the prize giveaway. Someone heard it and came in and said, you announced on the air, this is how much you are going to pay out in the prizes.
Was it like crazy amount? Was it like the difference between 1,000 and 10,000 or something?
Let's just say a lot more than that.
100,000?
There was an over six-figure mistake on the prize money payout. And because she announced it during her shift as the wrong number, they had to give that out. So yes, she lost her job. Yes. Again, I'm not defending her. A phenomenal worker. But yeah, she lost
$1 billion going to the Colorado state budget. And Jared Polis has proposed what he plans to do with it. To give us some insight on his priorities, what's in there, maybe what might be cut as well, is Savannah Kazkak, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She can correct us on that. With Complete Colorado. Good morning, Savannah. Thank you for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.
And yes, it's the C is randomly silent. So.
Sorry, say that again. You broke up a little bit.
No, you're fine. The C is silent. It's Kasich.
Kasich.
Everybody gets it.
Nice.
Yeah,
all right, there you go. Savannah Kasich. Savannah, you wrote an article, Complete Colorado. Governor Polis proposes more than $50 billion in Colorado spending. What did you discover looking through that budget?
Yeah, well, there's a lot there, right? $50 billion it's a lot of money. So yeah, I wrote this article just about last week on November 10th. And so Jared Polis took his budget to the Joint Budget Committee on October 31st, which is about 3 days ahead of schedule that he was supposed to. And he proposed a total of $50.7 billion. $18.6 billion of that is going to be in general fund spending. So yeah, lots of money. So in January, the legislature is going to reconvene, and they're going to have these requests in hand. And but there's a lot in there. His main things were education and public safety, but there's also some really interesting nuances there when it comes to Medicaid spending.
Yeah, let's dive into that. $167 million to finance schools, as well as reallocating remaining revenue for the marijuana tax cash fund to the education fund. And he likes to brag about the fact that schools are fully funded. Do you have a sense of how this compares to previous budgets, the amount we're spending on school finance?
I don't have a comparison for you exactly, but I do know it's a lot of money, right? $167 million on school finance is quite a bit. And that's not even just the only thing he's spending on that. So along with the $167 million, you'll have $14.3 million that's going to go to increasing the funds for the Universal Preschool Fund program. And then you're also going to have the evidence-based Math Accelerator program is getting a boost of $2 million. He wants $1 million to go into free textbooks. He wants, I think, $4.2 million to go into this one-time cash fund to fund disability grants. And yeah, so you're not even just seeing an increase, but you're also seeing reallocation from this marijuana tax cash fund into education. So he's definitely flooding a lot of money into education, which has always kind of been Polis's MO with that. And so it's not something super different, honestly. It's not super surprising. The most surprising thing about this was the Medicaid.
Yeah, let's dive into that. What did you discover?
Yeah, so Medicaid, Polis finally goes ahead and admits that Medicaid spending is out of hand, which we all knew. But Medicaid spending, and just to put that into perspective, Medicaid spending right now is at 8.8% per year for the last decade. And just to put that into more perspective, the Tabor cap growth limit for that is supposed to be 4.4%. So we've doubled the amount of spending that we're supposed to. And so in his budget request, Polis does say with urgency, he says, if we were to follow the Tabor growth cuts that we're supposed to do, we actually would have about $1.9 billion more in the general fund spending, which is quite a bit more, right? That could be reallocated to different places. And so he admits that this is too much. And so his solution to that is that he wants to reallocate $297 million into general fund for Medicaid specifically, which is 5.6% compared to that 8.8%. And this is really good because if this were to continue on the track that we're going to, that would be opposed to $631 million that we were planning to spend, which would allocate about 11.9% of that fund spending.
The money goes up and up and up and up on these things. I mean, Medicaid, so for people to understand, that's money going to people that can't afford health care, right? So that's not Medicare, which is for people that are, I think, 60 plus, 55? I don't know. Bill, are you on Medicaid or Medicare yet?
How old do you think I am?
Is it after 50? Old? I don't know. When do you get on Medicare? Is it 65?
Not that old.
Do you know when you get on Medicare?
I don't remember what the limit is right now. It used to be 65, but I think it's gone up, but I'll have to look.
Okay. But with Medicaid, so to get clear on this, it's been going up 8.8% per year, while the Tabor cap was 4.4% per year.
Yeah, it's 65. Yeah,
is for Medicare. Okay,
I'm so old.
But with Medicaid, it was doubling the Tabor cap. And then help me understand, did you say that Jared Polis was looking to lower the rate of its growth, and that's a good thing?
Yeah, so as opposed to that 8.8%, we're going to drop that to 5.6, which is still above that Tabor growth cap, but it's better than 8.8. So if we were to continue on that track, it would have ended up being about 11.6%. Or 0.9, I'm sorry, 11.9%.
There you go. So education and Medicaid, the state providing education for your kids beginning in preschool all the way through the time they're 18 years old and expanding its Medicaid. It seems, Savannah, that the socialist safety net here in Colorado continues to grow. Is that your analysis?
Yeah, I mean, spending definitely keeps going up and up. We also see a lot of focus. His other priority here is also public safety. So you'll see he wants to flood quite a bit of money into the state emergency management, specifically Homeland Security. He also wants to fund some money into, which actually is quite a bit of money, it's about $15 million, into Prop 130, which requires the state to give about $35 million for law enforcement training, retention. And so there are some other things that he's funding. He also wants to increase the funding for school security, which I think in recent times is probably necessary.
I'll support that. Yeah, I mean that's good. It's not all bad news.
Yeah, wants to give some money into the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, as well as domestic threat monitoring was also mentioned in his budget request. So, and then so it definitely, spending keeps going up and up for sure. It's like I said, it's not surprising necessarily. It's not surprising, but the amount is definitely surprising considering Colorado's budget shortfall in recent times.
On the schools or on the safety issue, he's like mandated to do that. This is one of the wild things I find about policy in Colorado is that oftentimes people will vote in conservative policy like lowering taxes, like spending money on security. And as you point out in your article, he's mandated by one of the more recent Proposition 130, the 2024 ballot that required that the state provide $350 million to recruitment, training, and retention of local law enforcement. So we can get the governor to spend money where we think it's good and useful by running ballot initiatives to force him to do so.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Wow. So we went through a series of Jared Polis hosting special sessions to deal with the budget shortfall. What is $50 billion versus last year's budget totals versus previous? I mean, and how much did a lack of government federal spending have to force his hand to use state dollars to go to some of these special programs? Because what I've often seen with Democrats is they'll rely on the federal government to fund something here in the state, and then they take your tax dollars and run off there and spend them in another area. And then the federal government comes in and goes, no, we're not going to spend money with you in this particular direction anymore. And then everybody panics because what was supposed to be the state's job in the first place got artificially subsidized by the federal government. Then they had all these other projects that they were going to do. Now they can't do those. How, in your analysis of the budget, did you see the federal government's cuts influencing some of Jared Polis's decisions?
Yeah. So, as a reporter, a lot of my job is it's to explain really complex things to the everyday electorate, right? And so in doing that, I definitely find it interesting, like what influences people to vote, especially in this last election, right? Like, for example, we had Prop MM and Prop LL, which was the free lunch program, right? And talking to people about that, you hear a lot of like, well, I don't want to be the person to not give a free lunch to a kid, And so it's just kind of like this reasoning that definitely influences the voter base. And I do think that the federal cuts, if you go on to any mainstream, a lot of headlines like throughout the state, they're definitely and they're pushing it themselves, but they have this notion of like, well, the federal government isn't giving us any money anymore, so we need you to give us money because otherwise, these bad things are going to happen. And I definitely think that, it's like you said, the state should be able to, it's their responsibility, and there are some things that they should be able to fund. And, but I do think that this notion like, oh, well, there's federal cuts coming, so we need more money. And so I definitely think that had a lot to do with it. I think it makes people more willing to give to maybe vote off on their more taxes like we saw in the election. But yeah, it is interesting. I do think that it definitely plays a part in how people look at it for sure. But as far as Polis, I mean, it's like I said, this isn't. I can't really compare it to 2 years pass for you, but I can tell you $50 billion is a lot of money, right? And it's definitely surprising considering how much of a budget, like we were in a budget shortfall, just we're still dealing with that, and there are federal cuts coming. And so what we see time and time again is that the Colorado government is, as opposed to looking at what money we have and how we can allocate that, we're asking for more and we're spending more. And so I think that's where we're at.
$43 billion was Colorado's budget last year. Now $50 billion this year. And to give you some sense on where we're spending our money, about $107.5 million is spent annually on undocumented students in Colorado. Illegals in healthcare with the Omni Salud problem, which allows program which allows undocumented Coloradans to enroll in private health insurance plans with state subsidies, runs an estimated cost of $90 million. Cover all Coloradans, a 2022 law that created a program to provide Medicaid coverage for children ages 0 to 18, regardless of immigration status, costed taxpayers for unauthorized immigrants about $16 million and could potentially double to $32 million next year. So that's a lot of money, tens of millions on health care, over $100 million spent on illegal immigrants in the state regarding education. And we've gone from $43 billion to now $50 billion in the state. And those property taxes going on up too. So it gets more expensive and the services continue to grow. Savannah, really appreciate your time this morning. That's Savannah Kesak. I think I got it right with the silent C, joining us from Complete Colorado, covering the $50 billion spending plan coming from Jared Polis. Thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll continue. Would love to hear from you. Jared Polis spending that money on Medicaid. At least he's not. He'll do that thing where he says we're cutting Medicaid because the rate of growth isn't as high.
Oh, yeah, everybody does that.
8.8%. He's going to get it down to 5%, even though the Tabor cap is 4.4%. So Medicaid, education, and security seem to be his priorities. What do you think of that? Do you support the governor's plan for that? We'll continue. Join the conversation by giving us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us at 720-819-5115. Let's talk Dan Caplis with Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who've been hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P, lislaw.com. That guy delivering the $200 million verdict for the family that lost their little girl in that accident at the Glenwood Caverns amusement park. He discovered that the company running the amusement park had workarounds for alarms that were indicating that seatbelts weren't attached. Amazing. He did all that research. His firm did. Got the justice, made our community safer, and people even text in all the time they'd love to see Dan Caplis for governor. You do a great job. All right, we appreciate Dan, and we'll be right back. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Jared Polis submitting his $50 billion budget, which includes money for schools and Medicaid and security are kind of his top three priorities. But I don't think he's making security a top priority because you, the voter, told him he had to through a ballot initiative. Democrats not usually making security their top issue. They seem to oftentimes want to take the SROs, for instance, out of the schools, the school resource officers. Let's go to the phone lines. Francis Golden. Good morning, Francis. What do you think of Jared's budget?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Hey, you guys. Good morning. Hey, it doesn't seem, I think it was like maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little more. Our state budget was like $35 billion.
Correct.
What? I mean, I am like astounded by this. And I am curious about. It's always a matter of the general fund. The general fund is always where you get. It's the only active ATM in the state budget, and it's on account of different constraints and things like that. But what are we doing with? There's a couple of things here. What are we doing with Medicaid increases? Is that to cover for federal matches that aren't going to be coming very freely as they used to be? Is that where I'm hearing it? I think that's where I'm hearing it, but I'm open to suggestion on that because I don't disagree with increasing the Medicaid component of the budget because otherwise I think we all pay for it if it all gets sloughed off onto the general public, with people just darkening the door of every ER that they can find. But that is a worrisome problem for me. The other thing that I really, really, really want to see fixed, if it's possible, and I think the only way to do it is through an initiative process, which I think is horrible, but I think it's merited here, is we got to get transportation figured the heck out. Our roads are like getting to a point of dangerous. And the bottom line is, I know nobody wants to hear it, but things cost money, and I think you got to up the gas tax. That's where most of that funding comes from. And there was an initiative that happened a couple of years ago where it was probably going to pass to increase the gas tax, which hasn't increased in 35 years. But it kind of got torpedoed by Caldera's idea to bond a bunch of road improvements, which was just insanely dumb. I don't know why we'd pay interest on it down the road on bonds. I don't know, but can we get on that? Can we get an initiative on the books here? Which I hate initiatives, but to just get the gas tax kind of figured out a little bit. But it's the only way to fund transportation.
Francis, do you think though that that's the only way? And I've got to go back and look.
Yeah,
I've got to go
100%.
back and look, but I think there's money being spent from Colorado Department of Transportation on their kind of initiatives to get everybody into buses and bikes, not fix roads.
I agree.
So
I agree. Don't do that. Yeah, don't. I don't want alternative transportation funding as part of this. No, I think it's all about capital improvement on roads. Period. End of story. I don't want all these little pet projects siphoning off money. But I do think that look, the bottom line is it's going to take a big. We're now not a bandage. We need a tourniquet to fix the roads, and it's going to cost money. And I don't see any reason why you wouldn't fund it now rather than pay interest on it later, a la the Caldera idea. It's just going to cost less now to fix than it is 10 years down the road when you're funding, bonds. It just doesn't make any sense. But I think most people would get behind that. I think that initiative would have passed had there not been the alternative initiative that was presented. I think it's time to swallow some bitter pills and do it. I don't know any other way around it. I'm sorry.
With the problem with the gas tax formula as well is you have more people driving EVs, so they're not paying that, and it's not feeding in. So those of us that don't drive coal-powered cars end up having to pay the tax for it.
Hey, I agree with you 110%. There's got to be another way to tax those people if you're driving EVs because they beat up the roads worse. But that to me is a detail thing that I think has to be figured out. Otherwise, I guess Plan B would just encourage Waymo to get Waymo tanks on our road, and that way it's not a problem. We could do it that way too, I suppose. just get more people off the roads, but create safety through Waymo tanks. That's my idea. I don't know. Call me crazy.
It is all going to go that way. I'm looking up on Grok here the analysis of the budget for roads, and there's not specific figures in his budget for roads. The fiscal year 2026-27 budget.
It's not.
$50.7 billion, $18.6 billion for general funds does not explicitly detail a road-specific allocation in the provided resources. Transportation is mentioned broadly, but the focus is on education, $276 million for K through 12, public safety, $15 million for emergency communications, and Medicaid.
Yep.
There's a transportation fee reduction, but go ahead, please, Francis.
Well, no. I think, and I could be corrected on this, I defer to others, but it's because there is a specific funding mechanism for transportation in the form of gas tax and things like that. So it's not part of the transportation is not part of the general fund Big Six, and it never is. They sometimes siphon money out of it. As I recall, to fund some extra transportation, throw a few kernels towards transportation out of the general fund, but it isn't considered part of the Big Six because it's got its own funding mechanism that hasn't been increased in 35 years. So they don't account for it. Literally, it's accounting for it. I think that's the biggest problem.
So
it probably should be part of the Big Six now. It should be Big Seven.
Oh, Francis, I like that, and I think it would be a much better use of our money. CDOT typically receives about $1 to $1.5 billion annually from federal funds, with 70% for roads. Fiscal year 26-27 likely maintains this, as Pullis cites $8.6 billion in federal infrastructure secured. A ballpark $900 million to $1.2 billion for roads, state plus federal, down from fiscal year 2022-23's $1.6 billion.
You know, that's another issue too, honest to gosh, Jeff, is that the state relies on this kind of, it's like a heroin addict or something. They rely on a lot of federal money in different categories, and it becomes Medicaid is the primary problem here, the matching funds, things like that. So they count that into the state budget. And look, last time I checked, our federal budget is pretty shot to hell too. And I think we can count on that money not always being there. We got to get off of that little that needle in the state arm budget. That's a problem. Federal needles are going away. So
and in all these cases, we're spending way more money, and it just seems like the services are getting worse. 8422. The problem is that this state doesn't maintain or do preventative maintenance on the roads. We wait till they're completely destroyed, and then we have to fund them completely to replace them.
Things cost money, baby. I don't know what else to say. Asphalt costs money. All of these repair works and things cost money, and I think that texture is 100% right. Yeah, we wait till it's just like shot to hell and then try to redo it. But that's not efficient. It's like we're a really, really bad homeowner who just lets the roof and everything else and the siding and everything just go to pot. And pretty soon you got to tear it down to the studs, and that's a problem. You can't be doing that. That's no way to run a thing.
Yeah, 5486 saying all we're doing is listening to people gripe about socialist systems. Not wrong. Not wrong. We're trying to centrally plan our education, our health care, our roads, our housing. And surprisingly, there's not enough money to do it. And the services that are being provided not that great. Welcome.
Math, baby. Math, that's part of the education problem. It's all math.
Francis, that's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate the call. Francis from Golden. His line is open if you want to join us at 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Well, if you are looking to get a new appliance for your home and you're frustrated about all the taxes you're paying here in Colorado, fortunately, we have a solution for you. Discover the incredible savings at the Mountain High Appliance Clearance Center in Denver. Their clearance center offers a huge selection of ranges, refrigerators, washers, dryers, and more. Save up to 60% on open box, scratch, and dent display models and overstocked appliances from Bosch, Thermador, KitchenAid, and many more. When you're looking for great deals on appliances, think Mountain High Appliance Clearance Center for the best prices and selection. Here's their address, 601 East 64th Avenue in Denver. 601 East 64th Avenue in Denver. Mountain High Appliance Clearance Center will save you a lot of money there. All right, phone lines ringing. We got a lot to cover. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Jared Polis introducing a $50 billion budget this next fiscal year, 26-27, up from $43 billion. If you remember, they had to get everybody together to deal with these cuts that were coming from the federal government. And lots of money going to education, fully funded, he says. But that will include about $100 million to be spent on illegal immigrants. Your full preschool, full day preschool, and that'll be funded. They've got Medicaid, and that will grow, just not quite as much as the 8.8% it does traditionally, even though its Tabor cap is 4.4%, so it was doubling what should be spent on that. It'll only go up to 5.6%, so Jared Polis will run around talking about how he's cutting the money being spent on Medicaid. He's only cutting the rate, but we know how elected officials work. And then he's going to spend some money on public safety, but only because you, the voters of Colorado, forced his hand, said you got to spend it via the ballot initiative that passed last year. So let's go to the phone lines. What do you think of $50 billion spent a lot in these directions? Mike, Denver. Good morning, Mike. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Nice to talk to you. Here's what I think of it. This budget is going up more than 6%. Inflation's at 3%. So the budget is increasing by 100% regarding a percentage compared to inflation. This is an effort to get rid of Tabor. That's what LL was. That's what MM was. You know, we have extra money, but we want to keep it because the children in our state are starving. And of course, what do people say? Sure, keep my refund. This is the tactic. This is how they're going to do it. We don't have enough money. We need more money. They were $1.2 billion in the hole. Now they're going to spend even more money? You know, earlier in the show we were talking about progressive government and people liking it. That's what's happening to this state. They're going to bankrupt it. Jared Polis was supposed to reduce crime, right? That's what he said in his first State of the Union address 4 years ago. Has he done it? No. Now he's going to try to do it by doing what? Spending more money. The educational system in the state is bankrupt. What's the answer? Spend more money. The Medicaid program in this state needs to be revised. What's the answer? Spend more money, even though you're above the Tabor limit. Folks,
it's not enough.
This is simple math.
It's not enough. And that's what kind of drives me crazy is I'm sitting here going, where's the evidence that the current investment is working? For instance, right? Like,
there is none.
This is what I think separates conservatives from progressives or business people, you know, from a traditional Democrat voter is we'll often test case something. Like if you're building a business and you want to allocate certain funds in a new direction, you go, okay, let's put a little bit of money there. Let's see how it does. And if we see good returns, then we'll do bigger investments. But with government, the solution to it not working is always spend more money. If we just spent a little bit more. I had co-hosts in here that were part of the Democrat Socialists of America, and their entire philosophical platform is that it's not working now because it doesn't have enough money. If we just, Mike, got a little bit more, then it's going to somehow kick in, and everything we've ever wanted is going to be provided for us. And it just never delivers.
Not with $50 billion, it won't be. It won't be with $100 billion. So
Mike,
let's be honest about it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I can't for the life of me figure out why Democrats complain about the direction of the state and then vote more progressive. It must be this idea that if we just spend somebody else's money, a little bit more of it, those guys in Aspen, for instance, then we'll be able to finally realize the great Colorado dream. Doesn't happen.
Well, isn't the solution take more from the rich?
Yeah.
Only now I guess the rich are for people making $300,000 or more.
Yeah. Do you notice that number always drops? It continues to drop.
It used to be $1 million till Bernie Sanders became $1 million. Then it was dropped to 500,000, and now it's 300,000. according to LL or MM or whatever the heck that passage was, by 60-some%.
Look at the culture. Here's a perfect example of the cultural problems that we have, right? That people celebrate the state feeding kids. Like, I saw that all these Democrats celebrating this, and I'm going, at any other point in American history, you'd go, this is a complete failure. My kid has to eat because of the state feeds him? Like,
Bill, or Jeff, tell me how I can get back into grade school. I could use 3 squares a day.
Yeah,
for free.
Right. Well, you're going to be
great
like
show,
that guy.
Great show, guys.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. We're going to be like that guy in the Obama advertisement, sitting in our pajamas with the government providing everything for us. All right. Let's see if we can. Let's get Parker from Longmont in. Good morning, Parker. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, good morning. Hello, Parker. Parker.
We had him.
I guess no Parker.
Well,
okay.
There we go. $50 billion up from 43. And I appreciated him showing that math, that inflation's 3.3 and more, increasing the budget by 6%. More money. Do you expect Colorado to be better? They're prioritizing healthcare, education, and safety. And only safety because you forced his hands to do it. Here's a question. Should we determine budget items, Bill, like we did on safety via ballot initiative? Should we force lawmakers to do our budget bidding via ballot initiative?
I don't know, because do we want to sit there and vote on all those priorities? And then what happens when your priorities aren't the ones that are fulfilled? Aren't we back exactly at square one where we are now? I'm not sure it makes it better or solves the solution. Because if you say if we're so progressive and they want a majority of the budget going to fund illegal abortions, then what then?
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.